Good afternoon, everybody. I said good afternoon, everybody. Are you all tired? This conference has been so very incredible. This session, I can promise you, you should have had some popcorn and a Coke. You just should have had that, because it's going to be that type of a session. I do want to ask you to, few housekeeping, but can you please silence your phone? And if you're snapping pictures, make sure our eyes are open and we have a smile. Right? Make sure we're looking good. We appreciate you being here. We want to say good afternoon to you and welcome you to the 7th Annual Pathways to Hope Conference. I am always excited, have been a part of this conference since 2018, and it's so incredible to watch it bloom and burst as it is. Right, Carol? We've been working. You're retired from NAMI, but we have enjoyed watching the hand of God on this work. My name is Dr. Keely Petty. I am founder and CEO of Kickstart Your Life. It is a wellness firm. We coach, counsel, and consult all things mental health. And we thank you again for being here. And we are asking you to really pay attention. If you get sleepy, stand up, because it's hard for us to be talking to you and you, right? So if you get sleepy, you do have the two sides where you can avail yourself to stand. Are you all clear on the CEUs that are available for this session? Are you all clear on that? That's good. So these sessions are 75 minutes long. We do want to make sure that you do a survey before you leave. And we are grateful to have NAMI, Texas, and Bexar County. Wave your hand, Mr. Mike Lozado. Hello, he is in the house. So now it is my pleasure to introduce to you those who are sitting to my left and my right, as soon as I can find the paperwork. Sitting to Mignon, can you, Reverend Mignon, and I hope I'm saying your name right, Reverend Mignon Jones-Spann serves as the Minister of Adults, Discipleship, Evangelical Girl, and Staff Supervision. That was a lot. Yeah, right? That's a lot, but you know, she's a smart girl, so I know you gotta got 2.5 readers. I found them. She serves at the historical Missionary, Antioch Missionary Baptist Church in San Antonio, Texas. In 2013, she had the distinction of being the first, this excited me, the first woman ordained to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ by Reverend Dr. R. Kemp and the Antioch Missionary Baptist Church. The Baptists broke down. They got their breakthrough. My God. That's incredible. We do celebrate that. She has earned, graduated with honors from the University, the District of Columbia, with a BS degree in early childhood education. She has earned a master's degree in adult and continuing education, Kansas City State University, and a master's of divinity from Princeton Theological Seminary. We gotta. Reverend Mignon was instrumental in implementing NAMI-Bridges to Care at Antioch, serving as the Samaritan cohort leader and coordinating multiple congregations on the east side of San Antonio, District 2. primarily. She is a member of NAMI and a trained Bridges to Care Wellness Champion. Reverend Mignon serves as a board member of the Interfaith San Antonio Alliance. She also serves as a member of the United Way Safety Net Impact Council, and she is a proud and active member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporation. Reverend Mignon Jones-Spann is married to Reverend Willie A. Spann, a retired lieutenant colonel. They have one son, Aubrey, and 2 grandchildren, and she has a passion for God, God's Word, and God's people. Our next presenter, I'm gonna drive by and just read them all so they can have the floor. Our next presenter is Reverend Veron Blue. Reverend Veron Blue has been married to Bishop Alfred Blue for 34 years. That should be applauded. Has 2 wonderful sons, Alfred and Austin, 2 amazing daughters. There's her son's wives, Sharonda and Jasmine, and a beautiful granddaughter, Quinn. She is the founder of Faith and Community Wellness Centers Incorporated. Her heart for a hurting community, especially among people of color, where so many are without mental health services, inspired her to start the organization. She assists her community in reversing the impact of adverse childhood experiences among children and youth. Her main goal is to teach and train churches how to be effective in healing their communities during this mental health crisis. She assists in training churches in areas of mental health and then helping them to build a mental health program within their church and the community. FCWC is also committed to helping the community family by providing resources, training, and professional mental health services to those in need. Her belief is that no one should walk alone. Veron is a certified mental health coach from Life University, as well as a certified professional life coach. She is a wellness champion with NAMI-Bridges to Care, and is a member of the National Alliance on Mental Illness Steering Committee, and is a part of the Mental Health Wellness Network, as well as serving on the Governance Council of the San Antonio Trauma Informed Care Consortium. She has a degree from the an associate's degree from the University in Washington, D.C. Veron pastors alongside her husband and son at Family Life International Ministries here in San Antonio, Texas, and has served in that capacity for 25 years. Reverend Justin Lindstrom has been an Episcopal priest for 23 years and currently serves at Christ Episcopal Church in San Antonio as the Associate Rector of Community Formation. I like the way that sounds. The Rector of Community Formation. Justin oversees children, youth, college, and young adult ministry, as well as all the outreach to the city and county. Justin serves on the Bridges to Care Steering Committee. We all do, don't we? Wow. Is the Vista I like that, the Vista Collaborative Cohort Leader, and is a member of the planning team for the Pathways to Hope Conference. Justice is also co-chair of the Episcopal Diocese of West Texas Mental Health Commission. Clap it up for these voices that are going to use the language and the times that we are in. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Only one, there's 4 of us. All right, we ready to go? Some of the questions that we're going to talk about today, and I'm going to pass the mic and let you all work with it. One of the questions is, what led to the creation of a mental health ministry at your church or faith community?
In a word, the pandemic. We had an Antioch health awareness team already, and it focused a great deal on your health. We did blood pressure checks, we did everything else. Then the pandemic hit, and one day I woke up sad. And I had been the one encouraging everyone, and I had a roof over my head, I still had my job. My husband and I had killed each other for working at home together. So I couldn't quite figure out why was I so sad. And I thought, if I'm feeling this way, someone else, other people are feeling this way in the congregation. So we started something called Mental Health Monday. And I went to the health awareness team and I said, we need a Mental Health Monday, and I want us to have a therapist, someone in the mental health field, at least once a month on Zoom where the congregation can come on and begin talking. So we did it for a couple of months, and they were like, well, Reverend Mignon, this has been really great. I was like, great, we're not stopping this. This is gonna be ongoing. So it grew from that. Just the understanding the pandemic had shut us in. We weren't able to fellowship with one another. We couldn't look. When someone said they were okay on the phone, I couldn't look in their eyes and really see if they were okay. And I knew that the pandemic had done so much more to us than we were really willing to admit. So the health awareness, the mental health piece just birthed out of that. And we came up with Mental Health Mondays, and then Doug introduced Bridges to Care, and we just kind of ran with it from there.
For us, it's interesting because the church's mandate is to restore souls. But how could we possibly restore that which we do not understand? And so when this opportunity came for mental health training, mental health is a mind, will, and emotions, the soul. So it gave the church an opportunity to understand the brokenness that occurs in people's soul so we can minister to them and restore souls. And so that was the reason, because the reason the church oftentimes judges is because they do not understand what's happening with someone's soul. So once you understand, you can be part of the healing because you won't judge, because you cannot heal the person that you judge. And so when we had a chance to understand, everybody, if you're in a relationship with anyone else, should go through a mental health training to understand what happens to that person, why they're sad, why so downcast, oh my soul, what's going on with you, and help take them to a place of safety. This training changed my whole life. After being born again, as we say, this was my next born again experience, because I learned to understand the people whom I serve. So my compassion level is so much greater. Jesus healed, the Bible says he was filled with compassion and he healed. We cannot heal unless we are compassionate to those around us. That is so hurting.
Christ Church was invited to be a part of the H.E. Butt Foundation's cohort on mental health and faith and the intersection of the two. And we joined that thinking how we've got this, right? And we discovered that we don't. We were woefully under-trained, underserved, and underprepared to meet the needs and challenges of the people in our community. Yet, we learned from the statistics that the #1 place that people turn to is their local faith community. And not just their local faith community, but the one that's in their backyard, right? So they may not even be a member of Christ Church, and they're coming in to us seeking help, and we were not able to provide that. And then we started looking at it and we're going, you know, we do pastoral care, that's what we call it at Christ Church. We do that fairly well. We've got teams of people who walk with folks through cancer, through pregnancies, through a broken arm, you know, all those physical things, right? And we set up meal calendars and you know, we pray with folks and we lay hands on them and anoint them with oil and all this kind of stuff. And then someone says, you know, I'm feeling kind of depressed. And we go, oh, okay. I mean, that's literally all we said. Oh, okay. And walked away, right? Because we had no way to talk about it, no words about it. no way to work with it. And then also at our Sidewalk Saturday ministry, which is a significant outreach of our church, we have a number of folks who come from the community, and we are beginning to build really fantastic relationships with people, and they began to share with us about their the domestic violence that they're experiencing, the extreme alcoholism or drug abuse that's a part of the family system that they've been a part of, the anxiety that they feel about all the things that are going on. And we never missed a Saturday of opening up throughout the whole pandemic. So we were hearing people's woes and struggles immediately. You know, and every week, so-and-so died, so-and-so died, so-and-so died. And every week we would say, well, where's Joe? Oh, Joe died last week of COVID, that kind of thing. And we were realizing that we needed training to help us actually walk with people more effectively. Not only the people coming to us throughout the week in the community, our own parishioners, but our new parishioners who are coming to us on Saturday mornings. And we wanted to go deeper, and so that's why we joined into the Bridges to Care training.
Wow, the Bridges to Care training is really, really incredible. And we hope in your hearing that you're taking notes so that perhaps you can take this information back to your congregation. The next question, y'all, and we got 12, just so y'all know, we got 12 questions. We have how many minutes in this session? Not enough, but we're gonna get through it. I'd like you to describe how you went about putting the pieces together of this program. What did you do? How did you do it? And then why did, well, we know the why. How did you do it? How did it come together, the pieces? Anybody can take them up.
So, first, what helped us was we had, as I said before, we had an Antioch Health Awareness team. So when we decided that we would do this mental health leg, we all recognized that we needed to pull in professionals. Because initially someone said, well, we could just do a Zoom and people could talk to you. I have an MDiv degree. I do not have a degree in psychology or anything else. And I recognize sometimes as clergy, we take on some stuff that we are not trained to do. So we then began having partnerships with mental health clinicians in the city. And I just sort of canvassed the community within the church. Who do you know? Who can we call upon to sit in on these mental health Mondays? So we had a pediatric psychiatrist. We had a pharmacist who dealt in medication. So people could come on and actually talk about the medicines they were taking. We also brought in a life coach. So we started looking at, okay, what are the resources that we have? And then we prayerfully began to ask members in the congregation, first those already in our health awareness team, if they would consider being a part of Bridges to Care. So Doug Beach, whom you all met this morning, contacted my pastor. And for those of you who aren't from the San Antonio area, my pastor is Dr. Kenneth R. Kemp, and he's an MD.
Yes.
So he was very much on board with, okay, I'm taking care of them from the pulpit, and I also take care of them at the hospital. Well, we need to have a mental health piece to our church. So we began prayerfully asking, who would like to be a part of this? We were very upfront. It's going to take some of your time. You're going to have to sit into 20 hours of training through NAMI. And we asked people, and people signed up, and people called back. Reverend, this is too much. I can't do this. No judgment. I said, sister, I promise you I'm not going to look at you sideways on Sunday. We're all good. We're all good. So we began to get the wellness champions trained. We began to sort of speak about it more from the pulpit so that the congregation would know this is what we were doing. We put up scrolling announcements that gave information on the suicide hotline in our church, that gave information about just mental health wellness. We played videos. We set up a kiosk in the lobby that had mental health material. So we kept putting it out there so that when it came about, it wasn't foreign. Our first Mental Health Monday was the Black church, the Black community, and the stigma of mental health. We wanted to first recognize, I know you were told you do not talk about this. You know, we don't talk about Bruno. We talk about mental health. And that's what we wanted the congregation to know. So we began building with our wellness champions. We began helping pull in other churches in the area, but we thought it was key that we had a list of professionals so that when we started this off, they would be sitting in front of experts that they could talk to. And then people just started coming up saying, I want to join. And the ministry just got built from that point on. So thank you.
With us, with Family Life, we trained everyone from all of our leaders, including our pastor. I don't recommend that for everyone because your pastor may not be interested, but it's very important to get the buy-in of your leadership. And so we approached our pastor, and so he is trained, and we trained all of the leaders in my church are trained on mental health. And so because it's important, because the people will follow their example. So it's important that they understand how to handle someone, or to talk with someone, pray with someone, and educate someone on what's happening to them. So we selected those people, and then we selected some other people that were passionate about helping others. It's important that there be a natural desire to want to help other people, so we selected those people. The next thing we did was we identified the needs, the mental health needs, in our ministry and in our community. Community is, your church is your community, because the people that attend your church come from your community, so they're really one of the same. You just have a group that attend the building and some that don't, but they're all part of your community. So we identified the mental health needs of our church and our community, and then we designed a program that will fit the needs of the people in our ministry and our community. And so we wound up with the Life Connections Ministry. So if you're going through a crisis, let's say a divorce, or maybe a death of someone, we have a group of people that are trained to walk with you, that are specialized in grief and loss, and they will walk with you. If you just need to have a deeper walk with God, we have someone that will walk you through that and help you with devotions and all of that. And if you need professional help, we have a department called Bridges. Actually, it comes from Bridges to Care. It's called Bridges, but it bridges you to help someone who can help you professionally. Because in the church, we pray for you. We're great at that, and that's an awesome thing. But after prayer, then we do something else that will get you well physically. Because if you break your leg, we'll pray for you, but we'll also take you to a hospital, correct? Well, if something happens with your mind, we'll pray for you, and then we'll take you to someone who specializes in caring for you. And so we do that. And then we also have a department called Compassionate Care. If you stump your toe, somebody will be calling and coming to see about you. That's ministry. And that's what mental health, this training has done, is to help us to become, I think the greatest outcome is the compassion and the caring that this is birthed in the heart of our leaders. And as a result, in the heart of the entire ministry. We care for each other, we check on each other, because we understand what the human soul needs. That's, yeah.
At Christ Church, we quickly discovered that a separate mental health ministry was not going to really work for us, for the culture of our church. And we then decided, well, how do we then incorporate the training that we had? So we selected half a dozen, and ultimately I think we now have about 10 or 12 people that have been trained. But how do we incorporate those into strategic places within the already ongoing ministry of the church, especially within our pastoral care? And so we've done that, and that's been very effective. And so we've been more, we've been less bold about it, but that's our culture, right? That we come from. And then the other piece is at our Sidewalk Saturday ministry to have wellness champions present there that could help de-escalate situations, to help us build relationships more effectively. And I tell you, when we started the Bridges of Care training till today, we hear every single Saturday from people from the community that this is their church. Sidewalk Saturday Church is what they now call it. So we've built a community because they know that we've gone to training to learn how to minister with each other, right? And to be in relationship with each other. They also know that we've been to training, so we're not going to prejudge. And we see them as people, right? Not as an addict or as, depression or potential suicide, all those categories that we see them as children of God first and foremost. It's not always easy. There's some very difficult people. Some of them are volunteers as well. But we all work together, and it's even led to, it was about probably 4 months ago, some of the folks from the community that come to Saturday asked us if we could start a worship service. And we did. I was brought to Christ Church to start a contemporary service on Sunday morning. Instead, we're starting a community service on Saturday morning, right? So, yeah, awesome. 2 months into that, folks came up to us and said, can we have communion once a month? And we did. And after we celebrated the Lord's Supper, Holy Eucharist, Communion, whatever you call it, a woman came up to me and she said, that was amazing. I have not had Eucharist for 12 years. And I said, wow, right? Yeah. And she said, my church, my previous church, banned me from coming to church. But you all have openly accepted me, and this is my church. And we cried together, right? That's why we've done what we do, right?
Oh, God, that is good. That was just like a cool drink of whatever you drink that's good to you. My God, this is some good stuff. And the reason I'm moderating because I am part of the Bridges to Care cohort, and there's a history behind that. But are y'all hearing the movement that's happening within the community? And look who God put the mantle. He put the mantle in the hand of the church. And it's because we ought to be the salt and the light. But we can't be ignorant about it. The writer asked, who bewitched you? Some folks are so bewitched in ignorance, they throw people out of churches because they don't know what to do with them.
I really believe that preachers, pastors, faith leaders, we should have a Bible in one hand and a mental health manual in the next. We put our hands together and we pray. We combine both. We should preach with a knowledge of the souls and understanding of the souls of people. Until we do that, we'll preach hell and blasphemy because we don't understand. Children in the natural need to know, do you love me? Can I trust you? And am I safe? When we grow up and we become a Christian, we're still children. Guess what we need to know? Am I loved?
That's right.
Can I trust you? And am I safe? That should be the gospel. That's what children need to hear. Does somebody love me? Does God love me? Can I trust him? And am I safe with you? That's it.
Right there, tweet that.
Yeah.
So can we not say something?
Yeah, I was gonna go to the next question, but go ahead.
We have
Because we do want to say, do y'all want to ask questions after, or you just want these questions answered?
Depending on the time.
Okay, so go ahead, and then I'll get to the next question.
Just one of the little things we say at Antioch, you can have Jesus as a therapist. It is okay. So,
Oops. But can Jesus be my therapist?
Now, so we would always say, we would tell someone, yes, Jesus can be your therapist, and if you are well after talking to Jesus, that's wonderful. But if you still need some help, you need to get somebody.
It's like Dr. Carla just said, confess your faults.
Yeah, I have a
One
question.
to another. To be healed, maybe healed.
Can you, I'm sorry, I am
I
under,
can wait.
I'm under a gun. Write it down, and we'll get to it at the end.
Hopefully you're not under a gun.
So the next question that we'd like to ask is, how are you sustaining that? I think, Mignon, Reverend Mignon, you alluded to the sustainment of these programs. And then how do you keep the topic of mental health forefront? I think you all alluded to that, but just if anybody would like to address that.
Sure.
Sustaining it and keeping it forefront.
The amazing thing about this work, if you will, and this calling, is that it sustains itself in reality. The more that we talk openly about what we're all going through, the more that we call people into not becoming a volunteer, but more that we call people into ministry and give them the tools so that they can do meaningful work and that they can be a disciple in the world. It's been incredibly easy to find people that want to do this and feel called to it. Because they're not volunteering for another task in the church. They're giving up their time and energy to be a minister and walk with people. And that gives people energy and sustains them. And we keep it in the forefront by, it's a part of our conversation, right? We don't have a billboard outside our church that says, we're a mental health or behavioral health friendly congregation, because I would hope every congregation would have that, right? But it's part of our conversation. So I liked what, I can't remember which speaker said it today, but not how are you doing, but how are you feeling? Like just being able to ask the right question, so that we don't get the same answer of fine, right? Because we know you're not fine. And so really being able to go that next level and talk with folks, and that's been very helpful for us.
We have, in our bathrooms, we have mental health resource centers. Because people, I know we usually put them in our foyers, but no one would look at them in our foyers because no one wants, because of the stigma attached to mental health. So we have them in our bathrooms on suicide, depression, anxiety, whatever you do, and that keeps that in the forefront of people's minds. Also, as leadership, as we minister, we are very conscious, and in all of our messages, we include some aspect of mental health. So we let people know that it's okay to talk about it. We talk openly about it when you go see your therapist, because people are ashamed to say that. We don't mind saying we went to the doctor, but we'll have a very hard time saying we went to see a therapist. Or we encourage people to get a therapist for your marriage, for your family. It's okay. You don't have to wait until something is broken before you get a checkup. You don't have to wait until your marriage is broken before you get a therapist for your family. So we do a lot of that. We also set up a mental health table in our foyer, so everyone that wants to talk about any aspect of mental health and feels free to come over and talk with us. So we keep it in the forefront of people's minds with brochures and talking about it. Our leaders talk about it. Our prayer team, they're all trained in mental health, so they not only know how to pray for you, but if you mention that you're hearing voices, they won't be intimidated. The one thing that mental health training does for you is it removes the intimidation of mental illness. You're no longer intimidated when someone says to you, I'm hearing voices or I'm thinking of suicide, because you have tools. We are equipped with the tools to help you to get us to a safe place. No one needs to walk alone with mental illness if we all get educated.
So what was the motivation behind bringing Bridges to Care to your church? Was it only the heighten of COVID opening up mental health infirmities? What was the real reason? What's the real motivation?
So for us, and I think I said initially, the pandemic really did heighten the awareness of it. But just receiving the invitation from Doug Beach, receiving the call saying, we have a program that is ready, we just need you. We need your church, we need your volunteers, we need your voice. Not having to make something from scratch was amazing. I was like, God, if I have to create a mental health ministry, it's not going to happen. I don't have the wherewithal in me right now. So having that already at our fingertips was just like, okay, If you can provide us this connection with NAMI, if we can get connected with Sacred, if we have all these resources, we will give you the people, build it and they shall come. That's how it felt like, okay. So we were able to just tell our congregants, the training is free. If you just go to the training, because people say, well, I don't think I can do it. And we wanted to explain, we're not throwing you out here blind. There is training. If you will commit your time, and there was one training during our time that was mandatory, that was 6 hours. So, you know, that particular training, I called every volunteer. I need you to hang in there. It's going to be okay. Yeah, go through the 6 hours. You can do it. You know, it was like that pep talk to get people to finish it to the end, and they felt so accomplished. And we had people say to me now, I'm not afraid to ask someone if they feel like they're going to kill themselves. They said, I never would have said that. I never would have asked that question before the Bridges to Care training. So it equipped people in a way that they didn't know they needed the equipping, and once they got the information, they just kind of ran with it. But it definitely was this idea of Bridges to Care is coming, and they're asking us to be a part of it, and they're asking us to be a catalyst in the community. So that was really the impetus for it.
For me, it was a good girlfriend that got me involved. She had attended a Bridges to Care luncheon, and she said, I can't get it, but her name is Carolyn White. And there she is over there saying, right there, I have Carolyn. Because she really got me on this mental health, involved in this. And she said, Veron, I went to a luncheon today, and she said, I can't get involved right now, but I know this is you. So call Jerry. And because she's my friend and she knows me, I trusted her judgment and I made the call. And it was one of the best calls. I would have missed a huge part of my ministry had I not made that call. So thank you, Carolyn. That's a public thing. Girlfriends. Girlfriends rock.
Christ Church has been a part of a neighborhood faith convening group for now 13 years. We first got together to deal with the issues of homelessness and people being unsheltered. Then the group morphed into caring for schools, and every school within our area is adopted by a faith community. So we had this built-in cohort, and the power of Bridges to Care is that a congregation gets trained, but they're not left out on their own. You're partnered with a cohort in your area, so you can work with other faith communities and work together. And since we already had a cohort that knew each other, we were the guinea pig. So Doug called me and said, hey, would you like to go through training first? and we agreed to do that. And so 6 of the 7 faith communities within our cohort went through the training, and it was over Christmas time, which was the worst time to do it. It took us, I think, 4 or 5 months to get through all of it. I mean, it was hard, and we were still fumbling around with all of it. But we were invited to be the guinea pigs and to figure out how it could be easier for these folks when they were. So, yes, yeah, we're happy to do that. No, but it was not just because of that, though. The invitation came to us with also the reality that as soon as schools get back into session in person, there's going to be serious trauma. And if we're going to be effective ministers to our community and with our community and the schools that we've adopted, we've got to realize that and figure out what that means. At one point in the pandemic, I realized that 8th graders that are starting school last year had never been on their middle school campus. Physically never been on their middle school campus. And I'm thinking back to when I was in 8th grade. Yikes, right? That's just, and then think about how many of these kiddos have lost a parent. And maybe that parent was the one who was bringing in all of the income and the lack of insurance and all that kind of stuff with some of these families. And so we knew that we needed to be prepared, and Bridges did that for us.
Everybody say, wow.
Wow.
The next question is, we're hearing all the yummy, yum, yum, and ooey, ooey, ooey. But the next question is, what has been the hardest part of building Bridges to Care program within your congregation or community?
Can I answer that? The hardest part of this program is after you're trained and you talk with people about, and you recognize, you're taught to recognize signs and symptoms of mental illness, is what do you do with that person to get them to a safe place? Access to care. San Antonio, Texas has the most mental health incidences, and we are the least resourced. How do you care for that person? Where do you send them? And that was a reality for me after we started talking to people and we recognized they had signs, and we were like, where do I send them? And there was no answer. And that's when we realized we had to do something about it. So with Rafa in my cohort, we formed our own network of professionals. We found people that wanted to work with us, and so we were able to refer people. For example, we had a pastor that called us one morning, and he said, I'm sitting at the gas station, and he said, I'm thinking of suicide. He said, and all I can remember is that you guys do mental health. What can you do? Because we had our own network of professionals, we had a therapist call him within 15 minutes. That's the reality. So I know we are working on access to care, because we have to have somewhere where people can get care for without having 3 and 4 appointments to do so, or a day or 2 days. People cannot wait for us to get our acts together where mental health care is concerned. And so that's really, I wanted to answer that first, because that's something we're working on and it's getting better, but I know it's going to continue to get much better as we all work together and collaboratively to take care of the citizens in our community. The training is phenomenal. It removes the intimidation. It trains you, it gives you the tools to talk with someone about mental health. But then we have to take them to a safe place. And that's what we're working on. So our citizens and the people in our community, do they feel safe? We can actually say resoundingly, yes, they're safe.
And I would say, because of the work that Pastor Blue had done, I knew that they had created this cohort. So when we had people to call, I called Veron. I was like, can we borrow your therapist? we need him. And we were able to get connected with Dr. Andy immediately. But that was the biggest thing. And we've been trying to especially create a list of therapists of color, because we recognize that as African Americans and people of color, you need someone who can understand how traumatic it can be to be black and brown in this country. So you needed someone, so we're having to put together that list of people who look like the people who are going to be calling. But I was so thankful that she had already done the work and we were able to build on it. But one of the other hardest things is if you're at a church that has lots of ministries, keeping this ministry up and not getting overpowered by other ministries. And usually your people who are going to want to volunteer are the people who are already doing stuff. And you're going to have to tell them, this one's going to need your full attention. I'm going to need you to make a choice. Can you devote your time? And watching your people so that they don't get burned out. And being able to step in and say, you're doing a lot. Would you be willing to step back a little bit? Because I notice you're in 4 or 5 things. And just keeping an eye on the people within the ministry to make sure they're okay. That's been something that I've recognized. Okay, I've got to attend to this because she's taking a lot of phone calls or she's doing a whole lot. And let me check in with her to see how her mental health is right now.
The training is, I'm sorry if I'm talking too much, but the training is a part of it. You have to be prepared after the training to get involved in people's lives. Really get involved. Like right now, we're talking to you, we don't know what's happening in your home. That's a whole other story. So getting trained is wonderful, but you have to be prepared to get into people's lives and what's happening in their heart and in their homes. And that's the best part of it, because that's where you get to know and to help restore their souls. And be prepared. We had to spend money out of pocket to pay for therapists. But you know what? We were prepared for that. We did whatever we could to get people connected to a therapist, because that's where we saw the change. We saw families reunited. We know the story of a young girl that was going to take her own life, and her dad would not take her to a therapist. And we convinced, the pastor called, and we said no, and we got her connected to a therapist that day. And so we were able to take her to a safe place. But she had a plan. She had a place. She had a time. She's 19, and she was going to take her life. If we had not gotten, he was caught up in pride. Did not want anybody to know his child was going through depression. But we were able to talk with him. So this work requires more than just being trained. It requires your heart. You have to pour your heart and get connected to people in order for this work to be successful. It takes people loving people.
So for us, I'll just be brutally honest here. We are a white, privileged, very upper class congregation. Christ Church is. Access is not our issue. Insurance is not our issue. Our folks have both of those. After training, some of our folks were like, all right, who's our project, right? And I didn't have a list for them because they're getting the help that they need most of the time. And so for us, it was more of the wellness champions using the language of mental health within our conversations to change the DNA of our congregation so that more people would be more open about it. So it wasn't a project. It wasn't that we paired people up and that kind of thing, because access is not an issue for us. With the work that I do for our diocese, which extends all the way down to Brownsville and all across the border, what we are seeing is what you've heard from Veron and Mignon. There are communities within Texas where there are no therapists. None. Uvalde, for instance. Very few. And they've gone through an incredibly traumatic experience. And needless to say, there's not anyone, there's very few therapists that are bilingual that can speak Spanish, or who are black and brown. And so one of the things that we're looking at doing is raising up people within our community who would be willing to go to school to become therapists, and that we would help pay for their schooling, right? Because we know that we need a diversity, a greater diversity, so that everyone has someone that they can talk to that they feel comfortable with.
Incredible, incredible, incredible. I wanted to just throw in this because our church is becoming trauma-informed care. And we had a young family to join about 3 weeks ago, the 23-year-old daughter in a wheelchair. And everybody, we didn't know if she was born with the condition. Come to find out, talking about access to care, you have access to care when you gain the knowledge and you connect the dots. Come to find out, she's in the military, her and her husband, right? And he shoots her because she had been domestically violated, and even the military couldn't help her. And her mother said, I don't know what to do. So we were able to take that entire family, connect them to counseling, connect them to resources. She has sisters and brothers who are a little younger, maybe teenagers, and they have gone through traumatic experiences because of what has happened to her. We forwarded them over to child Guidance Clarity, who has a lot of free resources, information for youth, and they are elated. On top of that, we have another member, a family in our church whose son has cerebral palsy. So when she saw that, ooh, somebody else is in the wheelchair, they connected, hugged, and cried and said, we're gonna call each other. You're gonna get on Matters of the Mind with Dr. Keeley and learn about how to deal with depression and all those things that all of a sudden came upon you. And I saw a wheelchair dance after we were able to do that. So there are access to care like you. I appreciate your truthfulness that in your community, y'all have everything you need. But not every, but you know what I mean.
99%.
You know, you've been like, I'm white and I got you. But what I want to say is, for those of us who are brown and black, we don't have that same access. When I began to train, I say, hey, everybody, let's get this mental health going. Now, here, we're going to open up with a mantra. What goes on in this house, and that's the thing we have to break. Because if we don't break that, the stigma is never broken. If we don't break the stigma, we don't break the silence. If we don't break the silence, we can't break the shame. So there's a trajectory of bringing people as close to heaven on earth mentally as we can. At this time, I want to open up the floor.
Pastor Keeley, may I say one thing?
Girl, yes.
So, I was listening to Justin talk about how they were waiting, the congregants were waiting for the list. One of the things we found is the training helped our wellness champions. They said things like, I struggle with communicating with my adult daughter, but since taking active listening, I'm listening better. I've had people say, since I took the wellness champions training, my marriage is better. I'm understanding why so-and-so in the family behaves like this.
Wow.
Other people are saying, I didn't realize what a trigger was. Now I understand. When so-and-so comes, she's a trigger for me. So even if you don't have anyone quote unquote to practice on, becoming a wellness champion has its own benefit to you. It gets you talking and thinking about things that maybe you had not in the past. It helped me just even as a minister. And I remember saying, I got picked up for this program back at the seminary, and I was like, part of seminary training, y'all make CPE optional for some people. Everybody needs to take clinical pastoral education coming out of seminary. Everybody needs some couch time before you leave seminary and start go practicing on people. You need to know what your own stuff is. And the Wellness Champions and Bridges to Care helps you do that. It helps you tap into your own issues and helps you deal with your stuff. As Pastor Claudette says, if you don't deal with it on the inside, it's going to ooze out on the outside. Like, you need to deal with your own stuff, and this is a great program to help you do that.
Are there any questions? I just know there are questions, and let me add, your hand came up first, but because you're a gentleman, we're going to let the lady go first. Can you stand up, tell us your name, and we want to keep the question, you don't...
I'm Julie Rowe, I'm a chaplain at University
Hi,
Hospital.
Julie.
Is this training, is it on video at all?
All the trainings are virtual, so they
But they're at a certain time.
they are, yes. And part of the reason we do that is because they are live, so that we can interact with each other.
Okay.
Yeah, but some are in the evenings and some are on the weekends, and so we've tried to vary it up.
Thanks.
Can I piggyback on that just for I think it'd be great if you tell about the coaching class though. That is,
The mental health coaching. Light University has it's a $2,600 class, 3 modules that you're able to get for $52. And if
Well, you need to say that again, 'cause I don't think
Yeah,
Are y'all listening?
They're affiliated with the American Association of Christian Counselors. And so the counseling is geared towards churches, but anyone can take them, and they're online, you can take them at any time that's convenient for you. They are the most phenomenal.
Yes.
It's the most, and then I consider this, the mental health coaching, to be the next step after you take the Bridges to Care training. So
Can you say the name one more time?
Light,
Light
LIGHT University, and they have a mental health coach class, and it's $2,600 that they're giving to the community for $52 the class.
You see, they're trying to help people get well.
And they have a myriad of other classes, life recovery coaching, grief and loss. You can specialize in so many other different things. So I highly recommend that, but I recommend that you take the Bridges to Care trainings first to familiarize you with the language. So when you take the mental health coach class, you're not lost. So it's imperative that you take that. Also, you become a part of a cohort and a group when you become a part of the mental.
Yes, sir.
Hi, so
What's your name?
Sang Il Kim. I'm a chaplain fellow in mental health at South Texas VA Hospital.
Okay.
I'm doing CPE right now, and CPE rocks.
Yay! What's your question?
So my question is, I'm currently leading a couple of spirituality groups with veterans. And a lot of common complaints that I listen from them is that after they finish a certain spirituality group course and doing groups with us, chaplains at the VA hospital, they're complaining that they can't find a church they can go to, and they don't really want to go to churches because no churches understand them, and when they go to church, so they just feel isolated, and so I was just wondering if you have any experience helping or treating veterans, and also if you have any idea about connecting veterans to after we helping them. If you have any resources or just ideas about helping them re-engage the community. So that's my question.
There is, so Christ Church is a military-friendly congregation, and that comes with a list of things that you covenant that you would be, right? And so I think they could look for congregations that say that they're a military-friendly congregation, because on a whole, then there's a care that is extended to military personnel and their families and veterans. And so I think that's first and foremost. And then as a military-friendly congregation, we're constantly talking about, and it's part of our DNA and our conversation. We don't have special programs specifically for veterans, but we're very aware that veterans are going to be in our programs, right, and in our ministry. And so we take special care to make sure the folks that have served our country, that we're serving them well.
Is there an official name, like a military-friendly congregation?
Military-friendly congregation is an official name.
Okay.
It's there's actually a covenant that you sign on to that you would do certain things and have a certain posture that would allow military veterans and active duty personnel feel comfortable worshiping in the congregation.
Thank you very much.
For anyone that's interested in the mental health coach, to get the $52, you have to be affiliated with the church and stuff. So I'm already affiliated with Bridges to Care, so you're welcome to write your name, number, and we'll get you registered.
Carol, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I'll make it very quick. My name's Carol Collins, and my husband Donald and I have been affiliated with NAMI Greater San Antonio about 10.5 years, primarily as teaching ministers. We also work very closely in our mental wellness ministry at our church. My question is, are the wellness champions asked to commit to a certain length of time to serve, or do you want them to stop after a while so they won't experience burnout, or do you understand?
So we do ask that they would commit at least to 3 years.
2 years.
And part of that is, the training that we get is free, but it costs. So you want to know that I've invested this into someone who is going to stick with it at least 3 years.
But also, the training becomes such a part of you that you never lose it, and you will always, because you use it in your everyday life, in all of your relationships. So it's not something you turn off, and that you turn on and you can turn on. It'll always be on.
You had a question.
Yeah, I'm
What's
Cliff
your name?
from NAMI San Antonio. I'm education co-chair of NAMI, along with Dr. Donnie Whiting here. We have mental health programs that are free to the community, and we co-sponsor Bridges to Care, and we provide some guidance to them, and they do great on their own. But we've trained some of the Bridges to Care people up here into how to do like NAMI support groups. We also have a program oriented to the military, addressing to the young man over there. I worked at the VA for 20 years as a clinical social worker. And these programs, one of the best programs is called NAMI Homefront, where we teach military people who are maybe their wives and their support people about military resources, psychological and mental health. It's a tremendous program. And again, some of the other programs that we have at NAMI are very helpful to all the faiths. Family to Family is one of the programs that's tremendous for the entire family. Ms. Hollins, who spoke a little while ago, is a family instructor. Her husband's a veteran. So there's a lot of resources if you just call NAMI San Antonio, 734-3349. And those programs are totally free for family members. We also have a program called Peer-to-Peer. That's for people who are 18 and above who feel they might have an emotional problem or a diagnosis. And we teach that mental health is something you can recover from, that you can still have a good life. And our biggest thing is the war against stigma. So again, if you call NAMI San Antonio, and we just love Bridges to Care. I'm a member of Antioch Baptist Church, Reverend Mignon's cohort. But if you call, there's a tremendous amount of help there. Hey, Barbara.
And I want to encourage you to pick up the brochures. See, just that quick, he got what he needed. But make sure you pick up the brochures from downstairs. Sign here if you're interested in the life coaching. Question?
It's not a question, it's just one thing.
We're only taking questions.
Yeah, one thing. Because of the simple, because they're talking about congregations
Right.
with the wellness champions and Bridges to Care, it's not just for congregations. Because we branched out, we right now have our first, we have a sorority, Alpha Tau Omega, AKA most of some of us in here right now, because they are going training to be wellness champions. So I didn't want you to get the impression that it's just for congregation. If you're a member of an organization, we're working with the Kidney Foundation to try to get something for them going as well for training. So NAMI is reaching out to everyone. I am Dr. Donnie Whiting, and I am the educational chair along with him, and so I'm also doing, I am, with pride, I tell you, I am a wellness champion.
Thank you, doctor. I see some hands in the back. Ma'am, sir, tell us your name, the organization you're with.
I'm a ginger trainer. I'm a Lone Ranger.
Oh, what kind, I'm sorry.
Ginger trainer. I'm part of Brookhill Baptist Church.
Okay.
And our church started in 2018 with a faith-based initiative for D3 for hunger and homelessness. And Sacred evolved out of that group. And so many other things have evolved out of that group, like my Homeward Bound homeless outreach. We discovered that IDs for the homeless was the key to getting them off the streets. So I lost my job in 2017. I did insurance 42 years, and it was the biggest blessing because the doors opened with the homeless ministry. And I was able to volunteer with our SAP health team. But the reason I'm speaking is I've been encouraged. I signed up to be that mental health coach over a year ago, and I haven't done anything about it. But after today, I'm encouraged to do it. Moreover than that, I want to bring this type of training, the Bridges to Care, to all the churches in the city of San Antonio and to all the vets. Everybody needs it. So what I'm proposing is reaching out to Doug Beach or somebody with NAMI to get Bridges to Care to come and speak the SABA, which is the San Antonio Baptist Association. Because what we discovered in the faith-based initiative is we were bringing churches of all denominations, you know, the Catholics, the Baptists. Baptists didn't even talk to Baptists. It's like we were competing with one another. But we were able to communicate on a monthly basis, and Antioch was part of this as well. And we were able to learn what other churches were doing in outreach, and we collaborated. And then there was another organization downtown that I formed, convening of the faith-based ministries, because those ministries and the shelters and SAMs and different ones in CAM didn't talk to one another and know what they were doing. So we all came together. But this was before COVID. But anyhow, that's all I wanted to say. The Sabbath was great.
See us, please see us at the
Yeah.
end.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Currently we have 600 people that have been trained throughout the city, and it would be my hope and desire if we could multiply that over and over again. Think about in 4 years, if we had 10,000 people trained. Think about what that would do in our communities and how that would change the conversation and change the way that we understand each other. So just 4 years, 10,000, right? So
Y'all, we're talking about self-healing communities. This work will help promote self-healing communities, not just now, but in the future. Ma'am?
Randy Cantu, I'm a law person here. There's so much about stigma, but where is the education to the public about mental health, mental illness, and all that?
good question. I think right now it's really word of mouth that we are encouraging people to be a part of Bridges to Care. I recently wrote an op-ed. Keeley wrote an op-ed for this conference. So I think word is getting out, but it's slow going. But share it with your friends and get people to the NAMI website. That's where all this information is.
Well, I want to be one of the speakers to the public.
Yeah,
You
Yes.
can call NAMI, and
Call NAMI.
we have a training program to develop speakers. Just call the NAMI number 734-3349 and tell them that you would like to become a speaker or inform people. And they actually have a program called In Your Own Voice.
I've already done that.
Okay. So again, you might want to get active again.
Sharing the hope, sharing the hope.
I don't mind unraveling my skills.
I'll talk to you.
I want to let you know that the next workshop starts at 3. So this is why we're chopping it up and getting you to ask questions, and it was a quick schedule change, so we did want to let you know that. Did I see a hand in the back? Your name and your church.
Leonard Allen, I'm one of the clergy for Praise Cathedral. I'm both a wellness champion, wellness leader. NAMI does classes, Doc, you do classes, and you at our church. 90% of my congregants are military. I'm loving what I'm hearing because I participate in and have been, well, since our beginning. But you just said something that I was unaware of in answer to the gentleman's question.
He's gone, yeah.
The question about becoming a
Military
affiliated. As I said,
Military-friendly congregation.
95% of my congregation are vets. I'm an active duty individual. That's the first time I've heard that. I remember going to a conference at the VA that was for all clergy. In different areas, different denominations, and I didn't hear that. How do I participate in NAMI and all these other ones? I'd like to branch and get that designation. How do we address that?
Yeah, I think we were designated that before I got to Christ Church. So I don't know how we went about it, but I know that if you were to Google search military-friendly congregation, there's actually an actual covenant and some expectations about what that means. And so That's all I can tell you, because we went through that process before I got to the church I currently serve.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any information related to that?
Ma'am?
No, I don't have any information related to that. My name is Aurora. I actually work at the nonprofit organization. I'm not part of any church, to be very honest. But
And that's okay. How can we help you?
my organization works primarily with Afghan refugees that have come in to San Antonio over the last few years. And so we were kind of wondering, like, best ways, best resources to get more involved in homeless volunteering and mental health illness, and awareness for refugees. So I was just wondering if you guys had any experience. I know they're different religions, but same concept, all of them. Yeah.
So I know for Antioch, I can't say that we've had experience, but we're also part of the Interfaith San Antonio Alliance, which helped with the housing, and many of those churches are also connected with NAMI. So your best bet would be to go through NAMI, and maybe even a cohort or something could be created specific to the needs of that community.
And you might want to also check with Catholic Charities. They have a huge hand in working with refugees. Okay.
My organization is called Drangua, and we're kind of like the spearhead of the communities of welcome for them. But yes, thank you. I was just.
Thank you for your question. Are there any more questions? Hey.
Good afternoon. My name is Cherie Colbreth, and thank you for taking my question. I have so many, but I know for the sake of time, I'm going to condense that down to 1.5. I'm delighted to be here. It's the first conference that I've attended. I do know a little bit about NAMI, so I do support the organization and its cause, as well as mental health illness and wholeness. We spoke about earlier on how to develop committees, right? And then I started to hear as the discussion went along, access to care. And automatically or instantaneously in my mind, it was already split down the middle, because I'm like, well, what are we really talking about here? Are we talking about money and insurance, or are we talking about resources? Because in this facility in itself, I've just come across a ton of resources, so it's definitely there. So a couple of things came to mind. I'm like, when you're forming these committees, you're reaching out to these individuals. Are they doing this at a cost, or are they doing this for free? Are they volunteers? Or is this we have to make sure that this person still has insurance kind of thing? That's one question that I had. And the second question that I had is really towards that, I think you called it faith committees. I like that. And this is going to be for you, Pastor Justin, Reverend Justin. You called it faith committees, where they go out and help with the youth. What exactly are they doing in those schools, those faith committees?
So our neighborhood faith convening group, which is now called the Vista Collaborative, the congregations within that collaborative have adopted schools, public schools, San Antonio ISD. And within that, we do a number of things like tutoring and mentoring and that kind of thing. We're also spearheading a program with Jefferson High School where there's going to be a peer-to-peer mental health ministry and after-school program. And so those are the types of things that we do. So every cohort that is designed within Bridges to Care San Antonio could actually begin to adopt schools, and school counselors and volunteers through schools, like parents and that kind of thing, can go through the Bridges to Care training, and they can work together in that. So that was what I was referring to. The other question is that all of the wellness champions serve without being paid, unless a congregation chooses to bring someone on staff to pay them to do some type of work. So it's all volunteer. And so when we were talking about access to care, we're really talking about professional clinical care, right? So Bridges to Care was designed to actually be pre-crisis care. And with the hope that fewer and fewer people would actually ever need a bed in a hospital, and fewer people would actually need long-term clinical care. But at the same time, because of that relationship with Wellness Champions, we're discovering that people do need that relationship with a clinical therapist or psychologist or psychiatrist. And so getting people to them in a timely way has proven to be difficult at times.
If I might add something about resources, upstairs where all the vendors are, you have the Center for Healthcare Services. You also have a sacred.org, which has a website of free or affordable mental health therapists. Those are great resources that everybody here should look at upstairs about resources that are available in the community. And NAMI San Antonio, again, has what they call a warm line. And the people who answer that warm line are full of resources for people who might need clinical help and where they can get it cheaply. So again, if you call that NAMI warm line, the main number to NAMI San Antonio, they might help you be able to get access to resources for your congregations or for individuals.
Thank you for sharing. Hey, y'all, it's been a blast. And I want to leave you with something Mother Teresa said that I really, really live by. She said, quote, "If we have no peace, it's because we have forgotten that we belong to one another." Go in peace, not pieces.